See, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, testing.
Sing us a song.
That's all she knows.
All I want to know is this all it's supposed to do? It's recording at the same time it's amplifying.
Well, I'm sure it can.
Well, I got it on, see?
Yeah.
Can't you hear me?
Coming out of
That's what I want to know is, can you hear me?
Sure I can.
Well, see, if I didn't have
You
this
just said
on...
something I could.
All right, listen, if I didn't have that on... Wait, can you still hear me? If I didn't have that on, it's still recording, but you're not hearing it, see? You can hear it now,
Right.
can't you? I can't tell no difference.
Yes, you can. I can tell the difference.
Fix it out. Flash it.
Testing,
Coming
testing, 1, 2, that ain't doing nothing.
Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I'll sing you a song now. All right. This letter is to inform you of the official board meeting of the Jackson Urban League to be held on this Thursday, May 18th, 1967 at 7 o'clock in the office of the League at 119 North Fair Street.
Testing. Hey, I ain't got no... Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it coming out of that thing? Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, see, if you had a big meeting hall, I guess you'd hear it. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is. I guess that's what he was doing.
Day that thou hast made for us mortals here on earth. Our Heavenly Father, we come with humble hearts this morning, thanking you for the opportunity to gather together in a meeting like this for the common good of the people of the state of Mississippi. Our Heavenly Father, be with us now as we go into the deliberations of this meeting. May what is said and done here, our Heavenly Father, be holy in thy will, and thy will be done. Our Heavenly Father, be with those who lead our organization from day to day in the state. Be with them and give them the strength to carry on. Our Heavenly Father, we again thank thee for the ones who have seen fit to come out today. Be with each one. Instill in their hearts, our Heavenly Father, that every good and perfect gift comes from thee. And those things that we work for with our hands and our minds, they are the things, our Heavenly Father, that we hope to achieve in a more abundant way. Thou hast promised us that if we will labor in thy behalf, that we can achieve those things that are good in thy sight. Our Heavenly Father, again we thank thee for the ones who could not come today. May they in spirit be with us. May they receive the message back home, our Heavenly Father. May we carry back to our membership the decisions that are made here today and put them, lead us, leaders of this movement, that we might vigorously carry this program to our membership for the good of all of the people of the state of Mississippi. This is our prayer now, Heavenly Father, and be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
A few more tables before we get too far along. Everybody will have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the state AFL-CIO and the Department of Organizing, I want to say that we appreciate very much your presence here this morning, and I'm especially overjoyed over the fact that we have so many of our central body officers and our local union officers here this morning. which indicates that we do have a great deal of interest on the part of the organized workers of this state in trying to do something about organizing the unorganized. Now, I told Brother Edwards here just a few minutes ago that we wasn't necessarily trying to over-advertise Northeast Mississippi, because we put out some literature from that area of the state, but we knew that the first thing you'd probably do when you got up in the morning was to open up the newspaper to the funny pages and read the comics of the day. So we thought we'd start you out in that fashion this morning, that you would like to read the comics of the day. Now, we have passed out several pieces of literature this morning, and I'd like to make sure that everybody gets a copy. Those of you that haven't yet seen it, we want to make sure that you do read the comic of the day. We want to make sure that you read the editorial of the day, also out of the Tupelo area, the Tupelo paper. Then we have the minutes of the last meeting and a reproduction of a story out of the New Republic, which will show you what the business community is doing with the using the race issue as far as the defeat in the trade union movement. Now, I don't propose this morning to burden you with a lot of conversation, but it will be necessary, I think, to review with you just briefly what we're trying to do. Many of you attended our last convention and can recall that we had a conference the day after, on July the 28th, on the day after our convention, inviting the various international unions to have representatives present to try to make a determination as to whether or not we had sufficient interest to mount a concerted, coordinated organizing campaign in the state of Mississippi. That meeting was well attended, and as a result, we have now had, this will now make the fourth conference of this type to initiate a concerted organizing campaign among the unorganized workers in the state of Mississippi. And I just want to briefly bring you up to date. We didn't, up until this point, think it was necessary to invite our local union people out, sensible body people out, because this was primarily a job to work out among the various international unions. After our meeting on the 28th, when we did make a determination that we had sufficient interest, and after that meeting we had another meeting on on October the 29th and 30th, at which time we invited all international unions with interest in the state to have someone in attendance. We also asked those unions to send their legal counsel to this meeting. Some of you were there, but a lot of you wasn't. And I can report to you here today that we had a total of 35 international unions present, with representation present. We had 12 of the most prominent labor attorneys in the United States at that meeting. And we spent the better part of one day in that conference reviewing the possibility of a new legal approach in organizing in the state of Mississippi. We were fortunate that the Associate Counsel of the AFL-CIO, Mr. Thomas Harris, was able to come down, and we were most fortunate that the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers were able to send their legal counsel down, Mr. Lou Sherman. And I do have here this morning a few copies left of the remarks of Lou Harris, not Harris, done this the last time, Lou Sherman and Tom Harris. Here, a few copies. Those of you that haven't received those addresses, I brought those along for you. Some of our local people I know would like to read those addresses. Now, the reason we did this was very simple. We have a conspiracy in this state. It starts at the governor's office, ends up down at the local community. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. That conspiracy is very simple. Everything possible is done to deny the working people of this state the opportunity to participate in the collective bargaining process. This conspiracy has been fairly successful up to date, especially in certain areas of the state, northeast Mississippi in particular. We felt by getting the legal brains into the meeting and review with our international unions the possibility of a new approach that had been used, not anything new, that had been initiated by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers in Simpson County, Mississippi, midway between McGee and Mendenhall at a little plant by the name of Universal. I think we got some of those people here this morning. And again, I don't want to burden you with a lot of conversation. I just want to point this out to you, that the conspiracy was in full effect, in full force in Simpson County. The local business community, the politicians, the political leadership had joined hands with that company to stop our people from organizing. And they tried to run our good friend Wiley Whitcliffe, who's standing up in the back out of town, along with some of his other friends, and actually tried to deny him his constitutional right of assembly and what have you. Well, I don't know whether Wiley's got a lot of influence with the organization or not, but I do know that after this happened, that the Brotherhood decided they had to do something in Simpson County to ensure his rights. They then began a legal process, a study of this problem from a legal point of view, and decided that the National Labor Relations Act did not offer the proper vehicle to get the job done. But they discovered in this process of study that there was a law in the statute books that was put there in 1871 that said, in effect, that when a group of people come together under the color of state law, if you please, to deny people their rights as spelled out in the Constitution, then those people did have certain recourses. And that statute is commonly referred to as the Civil Rights Statute of 1871. So what happened in this situation is very simple. By resorting to this statute, they were able to subpoena certain records, bring these public officials and the members of the business community into a courtroom, take depositions, find out what was going on, and before it was all over with, Universal Manufacturing Company all of a sudden decided it was time to sit down and start negotiating a contract with IBEW. And they do have a contract today. Now that was the reason we had the meeting and asked the legal minds of the labor movement to come up and meet with us that day, because we wanted to explore this new approach. Because again, as I point out, this conspiracy exists all over the state of Mississippi. Now, since our last meeting, which was also well attended, and I might say we've had, contrary to this editorial, he's not up to date yet. I believe he says 39 unions. Mr. Jordan McLean, E.V. Edwards' good friend up at Tupelo, who edits the Tupelo Journal, of course, has already found out about our conferences. And I believe he says 39 unions will be flooding the state. Well, I got news for George. We've got more than 39. We've had some 42. That's 2 or 3 new ones that's come in since our last meeting. It's decided they want to participate. Now, we have had a series of conferences with the legal people in Washington, with the Department of Organizing, and attendance, of course. And it was the general opinion of the legal counsel, staff of the FLCIO, that most of our international unions would prefer to handle their own legal situations. In other words, in this particular campaign, in the concerted organizing effort, if we have an organizer that gets into a situation similar to that I've just described, then that union will make a determination as to whether or not they want to resort to the new legal approach using the civil rights statutes. But in the event that we have a union because they don't have the resources, some of our smaller unions, and we do have several of those kinds, get into a particular situation where they cannot follow through, then the FLCIO will take a look at the situation and probably join it at that time. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Over on the other side of the state, up north of Meridian, we have a couple of brick plants. I was talking just recently with the president of that union, and over a year ago they got into a situation that I didn't even know about till just recently. They won an election, were certified by the board as bargaining agent, but they couldn't get a contract. The city joined hands with the business community and the company and what have you. They even put a statute, or at least an ordinance on the books that prohibited that union from passing out handbills and things of this kind. This is a type of situation that the FLCIO will be very much interested in and would like to take a real close look at it. Because this is the type of thing that we've got to stop in this state. You understand? So what I'm telling you here now is very simple, that if you get into a situation in your area, if you know of it, local union officers, central body, international representative, then let us know about it and let us follow through and call it to the attention of the legal department of the FLCIO. Now I want to briefly advise you of the agenda of the day. We hope to complete all business by 3 o'clock this afternoon, where you can get on the road and get home before it gets dark. Now, the better part of the morning we'll spend on bringing you up to date on our plans to initiate the concerted organizing effort. And we hope to have a break about 11 o'clock, which time we'll have coffee served. And at 11 o'clock, we want the international unions to designate, those unions present, to designate one man to meet with Assistant Director Alan Kessler and Brother Williams and others in Parlor A. In Parlor A, when we break at 11 for coffee. Now, if we break sooner, then it means we still want you there. We want you to see if you can't come back then. When we reconvene, we'll reconvene at 1. We want a report from you as to what your union's willing to do as far as assigning manpower to the project. That's at 11 o'clock in Parlor A. That means that the rest of you will have a 2-hour lunch break. We'd like to ask you to be back here at 1 o'clock sharp. Now, if we can keep things on schedule, this is what our plans are. This afternoon, we hope to discuss with you, Brother Knight, myself in particular now in this situation, we want to take a little time with you and find out what it's going to take to do an effective job politically in the state of Mississippi this year. This is an election year, and we have a real opportunity in the state to do an effective job. We don't know what the courts are going to do, but I think we got a pretty good idea what the courts will do as far as the reapportionment plan is concerned. We think the courts will probably throw it out. But at any event, we know that there's going to be a lot of new seats open in the Mississippi legislature as a result of reapportionment, and we feel that the time is right for us to move in and try to do a real effective job politically in the state of Mississippi, especially when it comes to the electing of a new legislature. So we want to talk to our local people, our central body people this afternoon about what you think it'll take to do an effective job next year. So that's pretty well our agenda for the day. Now, we have with us sitting up here this morning a number of old friends who've been active in the labor movement in this state and elsewhere for a number of years. And I'm not going to take a lot of time in introducing them. I'm just going to ask Director Williams if he'd come forward and have a few words to say and introduce the man that's going to be coordinating the effort, Brother Williams, Lige Williams.
Brother Ramsey, and other officers and members of the trade union movement here this morning. I think all of our remarks, as far as we're concerned this morning, should be very brief. Because as Brother Ramsey has very capably explained to you what the beginning of this program and how it has progressed to this point. And I would like at this time to pay tribute to the officers of the State Council of Mississippi and other representatives of the trade union movement who have cooperated with us in this whole endeavor to establish a coordinated, cooperated campaign in the state of Mississippi. We've had very fine cooperation from the most of our international unions. The meetings that we've held, I think there's been 4. We've had good representation from the major portion of our international unions who are interested in organizing in Mississippi. So Brother Ramsey has briefly gone over some of the things that was so important to begin with. For instance, the legal aspects and all of these things have been discussed. So our office in Washington, Brother Kirshen, Brother Al Kissler, who's here this morning, and others there, we have been in constant contact with them, and because of experience throughout the country in this type of campaigns in various sections of the country, they were familiar in detail with all the things that was necessary to prepare for it and for the blueprint of how it's to be carried on after we finally get down to the point of establishing and then getting the thing going. Like, for instance, this is the point we're reaching today. I think the meetings have been successful. I think everybody has been sincere in trying to cooperate and work out this program. After thinking this thing over when we first began the organizing efforts in Mississippi, the program, it was very clear to me that in order to be successful in some sections of Mississippi, we would have to have a coordinated cooperation from all of these international unions and our central bodies and our local union membership. Because one international union and one group working in Mississippi, as you all know, has not been too successful, although you have had successes in some places. But because of the way in which the people in charge of governmental affairs in this state and the general political setup has been controlled by a small group of people in Mississippi, It's been very difficult to give the workers of this state a right to a free collective bargaining. And after all, that's our objective. We know that without the people, the working people of Mississippi, has the right to choose for themselves a collective bargaining agency in these industries that are in Mississippi and use collective bargaining as a method of getting wages in this state, they're being denied the only right that they have to accomplish what we're trying to do. So we certainly want to do everything we can to see to it that the people who work in Mississippi has a free choice in deciding whether or not they want to select a union as their collective bargaining representative. The law says they have the right. All of us know through the Wagner Act that the purpose of the law to give the people an opportunity to establish by majority vote their right to sit down at the bargaining table with the employer and work out conditions of employment, wages, hours, and all those things that goes with a good union contract. That right we think they have, and we want to do what we can to help them establish it. We have felt that the only way that this could really be done with any accuracy at all would be to join together in all of in our efforts. We know, of course, the many problems that have developed between international unions. We've met these problems and we've talked with our international union representatives here. And at our last meeting, we come up with what I think was a very sensible approach to all of it. We have gotten the commitments from these international unions that have participated with us on certain industries, targets in the state where they've agreed to cooperate and help each other and trying to give those people that work there an opportunity to join themselves together for the purpose of collective bargaining. Now, I think the international unions that participated deserve a lot of credit. It's certainly not easy to get international unions to agree to cooperate together and to give up certain interests for one plant only, as all of you know, and approach this whole problem as a unit, as people who are organized like we're supposed to be. We're very hopeful that this thing will work out. We've had these experiences in other parts of the country, and for the most part, they've been real successful. We have every right to think that in Mississippi we will be successful in this program. So now we're at the point of really beginning the campaigns. This is what this meeting was called for, after all of these other meetings. We've now reached the point to where we call this meeting. And as Brother Ramsey has told you, we've called in the officers of the central bodies. We've invited you here today. We have also invited the officers of our local unions throughout the state. This certainly meets with my approval because we all know that in the trade union movement, in our efforts to organize and to cooperate and work out these programs, it's, after all, for the benefit of those people who are working on those jobs and paying the dues that support this trade union movement. So you people that are here this morning from your local unions are the people that we are depending on for the support necessary to carry this program out. We have a program in the future that we are discussing now, and I'm sure that this will be put into effect soon, where we will get into these central bodies. We'll get the help we can get from the officers and the members and the officers of other unions in the district to cooperate and understand this program. We want to help build up our central labor unions. We want the people that are organized in this campaign into our international unions to affiliate with our central bodies. We want them to affiliate with this state council because, frankly, the roots of the trade union movement. The real people that carries it on are the workers. And without the help of the people in our local communities, you people who live there and have your unions there now, without we have your cooperation, your understanding, and your help, we're not going to be too successful in this campaign. Now, we all know that. And I'm mighty glad this morning that all of you are here. It's a very fine audience of people. And I think you're pretty truly representative of the state of Mississippi. All most encouraging. Now, this is not an easy job, as you people can well understand by the brief remarks that we made here this morning, the work that has been done. And for the most part, by the officers of your state council. They've really done a lot of work. And I can tell you one thing. Having had a lot of experience in the past in dealing with a state organization myself, I know firsthand the importance of a good state organization. I know that in order to build the trade union movement in the state, it's got to have a strong state organization. And that is not to minimize the importance of having strong central trades and labor councils. All of it work together. And once we realize what this machinery will really do for the state, then I think we'll all be more concerned about giving support to our state council, to our local central bodies. Then, of course, our international unions benefit by the membership. May create a little more work for some of the representatives of international unions, but I know they don't mind that. They work real hard. So I'm sure that they want to see the same things that we do. So in order to accomplish this, we have to have an understanding among ourselves. And if you please, organization of the organized. This is important. The people who are organized and are living under contracts and are part of the trade union movement. We need the coordination, the organization of all of you people in order to give support to the cause that we're trying to represent here this morning, getting the unorganized into our unions. This is our job. The regional office has accepted the job of coordinating this program in Mississippi. We have been able to get commitments from the Department of Organization in Washington to purchase the necessary materials or whatever it takes to carry on the part of the program in the office that will be necessary here in Jackson, Mississippi. We have also committed in previous meetings, and we today recommit the staff help necessary to carry out this program. So we have selected Brother Starnes, who is Assistant Director, Region 7, who lives in Jackson, Mississippi, all of you know, to coordinate the program. Now, I imagine you're going to see a lot of Bob, because Bob will have no excuse. He has everything that's necessary to carry this out, and I have no doubt but what he will do it. He will need the help, cooperation, and support of all of you. And any time that I can be of any help myself, in my humble way, I'll be glad to do it. Necessary to come to Mississippi at any time, I'll be here. We'll have enough staff here to help carry this program out. I don't know what kind of things we're going to meet, nobody knows. But to me, this is important, and I hope it is to all of you. We're going to ask our international unions that are going to participate in this program. Today, as Brother Starnes have told you, we'll have a little meeting with them. We must have commitments for staff in this program. I'm sure that we'll meet with you later on, as Brother Starnes has said, and work these things out. So I think I've said my piece. At this time, I want to introduce Brother Starnes, who is Assistant Director here in Mississippi, who will give you some more information with respect to what he will be able to do and what his job will be and whatever else he cares to say. So, Brother Starnes, will you come up at this time?
Thank you, Lige. Brothers and sisters, I can't help but think of a little story. I don't know exactly why I do, but I just do. It seems on an occasion that a great number of people died, and they went up and met St. Peter at the pearly gates. And of course, they all wanted entrance into heaven. St. Peter had some reservations about them. He didn't know whether they deserved to go in or not. So he told them that he would give each one, or each group, if they wanted to group themselves together, the opportunity to ask him one question. And if they could ask him a question which he could not answer, that was sufficient, and they would then forthwith be entered. But if they couldn't give him a question which he could not answer, they would be moved over on the side and would begin their journey down below. So a group of lawyers and judges got together and they picked one man to ask their question of St. Pete, and he propounded it, and St. Peter answered it, just like that. So they were moved over to get ready to start their journey below. Then a group of astronauts who had flown into the heavens, they got together and chose their spokesman, and he asked his question, and St. Peter answered that with no trouble at all. So they were moved over. Then the scientists, the ones who had developed the bomb, the smartest men in the world, they propounded their question, and it was immediately answered. And that went on until everybody had asked a question and everybody had had his question answered, except one poor little fella standing over by himself. And he was a working man. He had on working clothes, and they were a little bit worn and tattered. But he came forward and he whispered in St. Peter's ear. St. Peter immediately smiled and opened the doors and said, "Enter." And the scientists and the astronauts and the lawyers and the judges and the doctors said, "Wait, would you tell us what that question was?" St. Peter said, "Sure, I'll tell you." He simply asked me this: "St. Peter, tell me when the members of labor unions on earth are going to stop fighting among themselves." I think we've made a long step forward toward the stopping of fighting among ourselves in this state. We have seen in recent days, to my mind, surprising and almost phenomenal agreements reached between international unions where each could claim jurisdiction over a given plant.
where one would withdraw in favor of the other, and vice versa. And that is what it's going to take to get the job done. A job which has to be done. I think we all get tired of listening to the repeated things over and over about Mississippi being the state with the lowest per capita income of any state in the nation, number 50. And I'll say to you without fear of contradiction, the only thing that will change that is going to be a labor movement. Industry after industry tries in this state to negotiate, and almost every time the companies will say, we pay the prevailing wage in our area. And as long as that wage remains low, wages will be low. And every time any single union negotiates a contract and raises wages, that union makes it easier for other unions to do the same thing. I'm not going to talk much. I want to give you a brief report, however, on some organizing activity and organizing developments which have occurred since the last meeting we had, which was about the middle of December. Some of the news is good, some of it's not good. But I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. The Clothing Workers Union had an election at a plant in Sumner, Mississippi, a place, incidentally, where we could not find a meeting place. We had to have what meetings we had in the city of Clarksdale. That election was lost, I believe, by 9 votes. The union filed objections, filed 8 1, 3s, and 5s. The company offered a short while ago to settle the 8 1s by posting notices saying they would cease and desist anti-union activity. The 8 3s involved discharges. The company was willing to pay those discharges all of the time they had lost from the time of the discharge up until that point, but not put them back to work, not restore them to their job. And the 8-5 was the company had destroyed the majority, and the request to the board was that the union be certified as the bargaining agent. And the company's offer there was the union drop the 8-5, and the company would then agree to a second election. Well, the union turned that down, and I think rightly so. And the board has ordered a new election, and a hearing will be held next week on the discharge cases. At Union, Mississippi, that same union, the clothing workers, lost an election. Another place where we could find no meeting place in the city of Union where the plant was located. That union is now working on plants in Corinth, Pass Christian, and Laurel. And I might add, is anxious to work on some others. The IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, got busy on a plant in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and now has a petition for election filed with the board. And I believe a hearing has been set for maybe sometime next week. Is that right, Wally? The CWA, Communications Workers, has an active campaign on in the city of Corinth involving the International Telephone and Telegraph Telecommunications Company, and an election will be held there by the Labor Board this coming Wednesday. I might add that the company is throwing everything at the union except the kitchen stove, and we expect that before Wednesday morning. The Rebel Workers Union has a campaign underway in Sardis, Mississippi, and an election will be held there, I believe, on the 15th. The Meat Cutters Union has had the election in Brown Brothers at West Point set aside, and a new election is expected soon. The same union is investigating a situation in the southwestern part of the state. We hope will develop nicely. The Packing House Workers Union has opened an office, an organizing office in the city of Jackson. The Textile Workers Union is working vigorously, but almost in vain, at the Greenville Mills. We have tried to help the union. The local union folks in Greenville, the central body, and the Steelworkers Union in particular, have tried to help. But it looks like the people in Greenville at that plant are afraid of their own shadow. And I wish we could find some way to put a little starch in their beer or their coffee or their whiskey or their water or something and see if it wouldn't strengthen up the backbone a little bit. The Boilermakers Union, after months and months and months of litigation at Babcock's and Wilcox in West Point, is now in the process of negotiating. Unfortunately, we have two unions in a campaign at the Wurlitzer plants in the northeastern part of the state. We're still hopeful that we might be able to narrow that down to one, because I don't think two can win. One might. Now that brings me at long last to the Upholsterers International Union. And I think I have to take my hat off to that union, along with some others, for staying in a fight and not giving up. They've been in this fight in Pontotoc, Mississippi, I guess for about 2 years. They lost an election, they filed charges, and they've been in litigation since. Finally, a week ago, the National Board in Washington has upheld almost every single charge that this union made. And one part of the board's order, which is quite interesting to me, orders the mayor of the town to cease and desist his anti-union activity and to publish in a newspaper of general distribution in the area a notice that he will no longer interfere or coerce or intimidate. And when that advertisement appears, signed by that mayor, I want to frame it. Now, of course, since the board upheld the charges, and a part of the upholding was upholding an 8-5 charge, that is, that the company destroyed a majority, and the company should be required to bargain with that union, and the union be certified without any further election. That union has, through its representative, Johnny Ray, written to the company and asked to begin negotiations. And the company lawyer has written a reply, which I've had the privilege of reading, and which I think is most interesting. And in view of everything that has happened, perhaps a wee bit amusing. And it's just so interesting, I think that you would like to hear it read, and I'd like for Johnny Ray of the Upholsterers Union to come up here and right quick and read that letter. Do you have it, Johnny? Can you get on your bicycle and come up here? stomped around in northeast Mississippi and run sometimes for a long while. And he's done a good job. Read that letter, Johnny. Let everybody get a little chuckle.
As Bob has told you, we've been in this battle for 2 years, and he's mentioned the Upholsters Union. He didn't bother to tell you that he made some of our meetings up there and helped as much as anyone possibly could, and we appreciate it. I want to read to you the letter because he's talking about framing this mayor's proclamation in the paper. I'm going to frame this letter. I don't believe I ever received one quite like it before in this business, and probably never will again. It says, in answer to a reply, or to a request at the earlier part of the week, we asked that the company sit down in keeping with the board's order and bargain with us for these people for a contract. This was the answer. Dear Mr. Ray, this refers to your letter addressed to Earl Murphy of Dean Industries, Pontotoc, Mississippi, requesting a conference for the purpose of undertaking to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. In accordance with the enclosed copy of the letter to the National Labor Relations Board, the company will comply with the decision order rendered January 24th, 1967. We will be pleased to meet with you for the purpose of negotiations, and would you be good enough to suggest a time and a place convenient to you? We would appreciate your suggesting alternate dates in order that all interested parties may be able to arrange their schedule accordingly. A copy of this letter to Mr. Reynolds in Memphis with the board, and it reads, Dear Mr. Reynolds, this refers to the decision rendered in this case on January 24th, 1967, and is to advise you on behalf of the company, Dean Industry, that the company will comply with the decision and order. Now, this is something that not only the Upholsters Union, organized labor has been fighting in northeast Mississippi. And when I say organized labor, I start at the top. No one could have had any better cooperation and any more assistance than we have had in this campaign from the labor movement in the Mississippi area and from the top office in Washington. And at this time, I want to take the opportunity for my international union, my co-workers here, and myself to extend to Brother Claude Ramsey a most heartily thanks for his cooperation, for the cooperation of his office and his staff, because I have yet asked for anything, any help from Brother Ramsey that he hasn't overwhelmingly followed through on. This we appreciate. From Brother Williams' office in New Orleans, which boils down to Brother Starnes here in Jackson, he has, as I said, made our meetings not only with Dean but with other companies. He has afforded a staff to work with us wholeheartedly in this thing. The credit also should go to his office and to Brother Hines and to Joe Mullins, who has so diligently worked on this. And then last but not least, to the AFL-CIO office in Washington, Brother Alan Kessler, who is here. I ask his help on this thing. The office has worked with him on it, or he with them. And I want all of you to know this, that no one could have had any better cooperation in a fight with the people we have in Mississippi to fight than we have had from the labor movement in the entire efforts here from the top office down. Brother Ramsey, Brother Starnes, thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. And I think I can say for all of the staff, not only here, but in Washington, and I certainly say for myself, it has always been a pleasure to work with you and your associates. I want to pay tribute again in a small way to the Upholsterers Union for their continuing the fight. On one occasion, I know that we had to look at that fight in the light of what effect it might have on the entire organizing effort in the northern part of the state. And that union was broad-minded enough to take into consideration what effect could prevail if they dropped the fight. And I know it was discouraging sometimes. Now, we have a couple of cases in the state where unions have lost elections and have walked away. And I have two specific instances in mind that are going on right now. And where after the union lost the election and did walk away, the company got pretty vicious with some of the union supporters. And the companies have fired some of them. And those people who were fired have been looking for their union representative, and they've not been able to find him. My information is that in both of those cases now those people are talking to the Teamsters Union. And it won't be many months before both situations will be in shape for another election. And I think, to say the least, the unions who have an interest there and who have an investment will be looked at with a jaundiced eye if they try to come back. That is from the standpoint of those two particular international unions. But when you look at it from a broader picture, those situations are affecting the organizing effort in that entire area. Because people say, oh, the union came down here and they lost an election and got some people in trouble and they run off and left them. And mister, you try to explain that away. Just try it. And I hope that all unions, whatever might develop, will try to examine situations of that kind not only in the light of their own situation, but in the light of what might happen, what effect such a thing might give to a broader aspect of the organizing effort. Now, to the local union people and to the central body people, we will be seeing, I hope, more and more of you, particularly in the northeastern part of the state and particularly in the central part of the state. We're going to ask, and I'm certain we will receive, help and assistance time and time again. Just get ready, because we're going to start knocking on your door. We hope perhaps in certain areas where the work is concentrated to work with the central bodies, and perhaps a little later in the year have your central bodies set up an organizing committee and undertake to do a little preliminary, bare schooling in organizing of your organizing committee. Now, we've never called on people before and failed to get help. And I'm just as satisfied as I am standing here that when we call this time, we'll get help again. So we'll be looking for you down the road, and if we all get in this boat together and grab a paddle and go to paddling, I think we can get across on the other side where we want. And we'll be seeing you a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. What slips my mind, I'm going to make an announcement that I've been asked to make. Now, I was asked to make the announcement this afternoon, but it occurred to me that some people might not be here that should hear it. Retired Vice President of International Machinists Union has asked me to announce that he'd like to meet with the machinists present in Parlor B right after adjournment this afternoon. Now, I will try to make it again, but all machinists in Parlor B right after we adjourn this afternoon. Now, we're fortunate this morning to have with us a young man that's made each and every one of our meetings to try to initiate a concerted organizing effort in the state of Mississippi. And I feel that largely due to his efforts, we've been able to convince the FFL-CIO, the organizing department in particular, that it was time that we did mount a concerted organizing campaign in the state of Mississippi, and that if we were to be successful, we had to have the full support of the FFL-CIO Department on Organizing. Assistant Director Alan Kessler spent a lot of time with us, both here and in Washington, in trying to work out the details and put together what we felt would be a successful effort. So at this time, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to present to you Assistant Director of Organization Alan Kessler for a few remarks. Brother Kessler.
Thank you. Thank you, Claude. I think that this can be one of the greatest days in the history of Mississippi. One of the greatest days in the history of the Mississippi labor movement and of the whole American labor movement. One of the greatest days in your life and mine. It can be that if we do all that is implied and included in the program we are here today to start. In fact, of course, we are not just starting today, because as Claude and Lige and Bob have reminded us, this is a culmination of a series of efforts that began with your convention last year. Some of you may remember that I spoke at that convention in this hotel, and if I'm not mistaken, in this room. It's even possible that someone other than myself may remember something of what I said then. I don't think so, so I'll refresh your memory by quoting from your convention proceedings. After talking about the problems of organizing throughout the country and in Mississippi, I reminded the delegates to that convention that 2 successive AFL-CIO conventions had adopted unanimously a resolution calling upon all AFL-CIO affiliates to institute programs of cooperative organizing. And then I put 2 questions to the delegates here. And now I'll quote from your proceedings. The question is, can it work in Mississippi? And the next problem is, will it be done? Today's meeting and all that has gone on before answers that second question, will it be done, which is to say, will it be tried? We're trying. Now, the first question, can it be done? To that question, the final answer, of course, only time and results will tell. But I am very optimistic, my dear sisters and brothers, that the answer will be an affirmative one, because we know what has happened already here in Mississippi. At our last meeting in mid-December, we reached agreement on some important target plants. And as a result, active campaigns are underway today in several of them. And what has happened in those campaigns to make them different? A new element has been added: cooperation. The kind of cooperation that finds a representative of a union whose jurisdictional history qualifies it equally to be a legitimate seeker after the membership of the people in that plant, going to the people in that plant, his former contacts and supporters, and saying to them, I want you to vote for the union, for that union, my sister union in the family of AFL-CIO. Now, really, of course, this is not a new element, because fraternal cooperation has always been an ingredient of trade unionism. What is different is that now, in a cooperative drive, we are using that ingredient in a systematic, planned manner. And at this point, I would like to quote from the remarks of another of your convention speakers, the state treasurer of Mississippi, William Winter. He said in this room, Mississippi doesn't have any problems that intelligent, responsible, reasonable, and dedicated people cannot solve. But they are not automatically going to be solved. They are going to be solved only as enough of us take the time and the trouble and the concern to see that they are solved, and on a basis that will inure to the benefit of the whole state and not just a few. That was what William Winter said. And that is what we are trying to do here with our cooperative organizing drive. Which leads us right back to the previous question: can it be done? Now, when you're addressing yourself to a question of whether a certain problem can be solved, you have to know what the problem is and what your tools are, what your resources are. And as we examine this problem of organizing the unorganized in Mississippi, what are the assets? What do we have going for us here? I want to list some of those things that you have going for you in Mississippi. First of all, you have the leadership of the labor movement in Mississippi. You have Claude Ramsey. Now, maybe you're used to Claude Ramsey. Maybe you take him for granted. But I want you to know that throughout this nation, Claude Ramsey and Tom Knight, the executive board of your state organization, are held in extremely high regard, because it is known throughout the whole labor movement the intensity of the problems that the labor movement faces in Mississippi. The unique combination of problems that you have in Mississippi. And there is a profound respect for what you are doing through your state organization and your central bodies and your local unions to attempt to solve them. So your officers and your board are a major asset that you can count on. Our own staff here, Liz Williams, a lifetime of service to the labor movement, and Bob Starnes, the assistant director. Both of these men have made so many contributions that they have reached a point where I guess with justice they could sit back and say, well, we've done enough. But they're not doing that. If anything, they're increasingly active in their organizing activity. And their staff. As you know, we've increased our staff here. Not just Bob Starnes, but we now have full-time Joe Mullins, Willie Hines. Others are coming in from time to time. Several of them are here with us today, whom you've met before, L.G. Morgan and Ralph Hicks, and there will be others as the need arises. These are assets you have. International representatives who are in this state. As dedicated and as efficient and capable as any you meet anywhere are here. I've met some of them on campaigns, not only here but in other states. And I've met some of them in training programs. I look around here and I see at least two with whom I spent a week last year in a neighboring state, where we spent a week together, people who've been organizing for years, trying to increase our skills as organizers. These are assets that you have. And your central body officers who are here, and your local union officers who are here. And finally, your members. Yes, your members. Thousands of AFL-CIO dues-paying members in the state of Mississippi. That's something you have going for you. Now, I'd like to remind you of the little story I told last December, because I think it has some point, of the young fellow who was courting a girl, and he was kind of the bashful type. And he was fearful lest he press his case too hard, too soon. And some time went by. And about the closest he had come to making her realize that he was quite smitten with her was occasionally to touch her hand. Well, they were sitting one night out on the front porch in the swing. A lovely spring night, the smell of honeysuckle and magnolia in the air. And while they were sitting there on that swing, looking at the flowers, kind of a caterpillar or a thousand-legger came crawling up the stem of a rose. And suddenly the guy was inspired, and he turned to his girlfriend and he said, "Amanda, I wish you were that rose and I was that thousand-legger." And she said, "Well, what for?" And he said, "Well, if you were that rose, I were that thousand-legger, I'd have 1,000 arms, and I'd put every one of them around you, and I'd hug you tight." And she said, "Well, Ashley, what's wrong with using the two you got?" That's the question. What's wrong with using what you've got? You've got thousands of dues-paying members in this state who know what it was like before the union came into their lives. They know what it was like to work in an unorganized plant. They knew what it was like to have no union security, no paid holidays, no vacation, no one to represent them in a grievance. What's wrong with using them? There's nothing wrong with using them. There's everything right with using them. They represent a reservoir of strength and organizing resource, if we'll only use it. We have to use them because there are not enough full-time organizers anywhere to do the organizing job that has to be done. If the unions in this state doubled and tripled and 10 times increased their full-time staff, it still wouldn't be enough because the workforce keeps growing at a faster rate than all our organizing can bring in. I reminded you last time that last year, in the first 6 months, the AFL-CIO unions in Mississippi had won more elections and brought more people into collective bargaining than in any full year since the merger. And you do well to applaud, because that is something in this state. In 6 months, you did that. But even at that accelerated rate, as I reminded you in December, to organize just the plants that you yourselves have pointed to on your surveys as your major targets, at that rate, at that accelerated rate, would take 30 years to organize. And those people can't wait 30 years. And the labor movement can't wait 30 years. Now we have to organize. So we have to do something different. We've got to harness this great reservoir of organizing resource that is represented by our members throughout the state. And don't say it cannot be done, because it can be. It's being done elsewhere. And as a matter of fact, it's being done in Mississippi. Any really effective organizer knows that he doesn't organize a plant. He helps. He brings his skills and his knowledge and helps them develop courage. But it's the workers who organize the plant, or else it won't be organized. It's the in-plant committee that does the job, or it won't be done. And these are volunteers. And they're unorganized volunteers. So don't say that you cannot use your members as volunteer organizers. It can be done. But it has to be done systematically. They have to be trained. We have to know what it is they can do, what they're expected to do. This takes planning, it takes training, it takes a systematic application of all our skills. And this is going to be part of your cooperative drive. Training programs in localities all through the state, bringing together local union people, central body people, full-time organizers, so that we can increase the base of our organizing force. Well, these are some of the assets we have. What about the problems? We have the opposition of the company, the opposition of the community. They can be overcome. They've been overcome in most cases because we're winning more elections than we lose. But we have to do better. And again, we have the skills, we have the know-how. It's a question of whether we can use them and use them most effectively. And this is not going to happen in a haphazard manner. It's got to be planned and applied intelligently and logically. And that's what your cooperative organizing drive is going to hope to do. Another problem is the inadequacy of the NLRB remedies. that are not completely inadequate. We've seen this morning eventual compliance with the board order. But even so, we can improve our ability to use the board with all its inadequacies. And that takes skill and knowledge and training. There's a misunderstanding of unions on the part of unorganized workers. So we have to improve our communication skills, and that can be done if we pool our resources and our knowledge. And then there's a problem I've been told repeatedly not to talk about, the race problem. Every time I come down here, I'm told, don't talk about it. And I have not, but I'm going to talk about it today. I have a right to talk about it. I'm a member of a race. If there's a racial problem, I'm part of it. I have a right to talk about it. And I happen to live south of the Mason-Dixon line. I don't know whether that qualifies me as a Southerner, but I've lived there 15 years. 2 of my kids were born south of the Mason-Dixon line. I don't know whether that makes them Southerners, but that's where they were born. And 4 years ago, I moved even further south, so I'm just an hour and a half drive from the final capital of the Confederacy. I don't know whether that qualifies me as having some insights to Southern problems, but that's where I live. And I have kinfolk living just an hour or 2 drive from here, at least 10 of them, sisters, brothers, nephews, nieces, cousins, kinfolk. I don't know whether that qualifies me to have any sympathy for the attitudes of Southerners, but at least I have that possibility. And I know that people can be emotionally involved because of the long influence of tradition. I know what I grew up in. I know how I was influenced by the area and the attitudes where I grew up. But I also know that people are human beings. And as such, they have a certain ability that no other earthly creature possesses, the ability to think and to reason and to reach intelligent conclusions. And they can change their attitude as a result of those attributes, as a result of that God-given attribute. And that is what we know as a fact, we trade unionists. And that is a fact on which our organizing plans and hopes are based. The companies are going to bank on emotion as being the stronger motivation than reason. You may recall the story of the old guy who was coming home from the tavern one night and taking his customary shortcut through the cemetery and didn't know that there was a new grave that had been built, and he fell in it. And he got up and he saw that, it was kind of high and couldn't get out. So he had been in that spot before. That wasn't the first time he'd taken that kind of a shortcut after a night at the bar. So he just went to sleep. And pretty soon a young fella came by who was taking a shortcut too, and he fell in also. And he was pretty frightened. And he started scratching and trying to get out of that grave. And his exertions woke up the old man, whom the young fella hadn't seen in the darkness of the grave. And the old guy watched him for a minute as he was scrambling and crawling, and finally he reached out a bony finger and he touched him in the back. And he said, "You can't get out of here." But he did. That's what you call motivation. Well, the companies think that motivation that is stronger than reason. And they're going to continue to try to divide the workers on an emotional basis. Now, this campaign up at Corinth is a case in point. Yesterday, as you may know, they brought the workers in groups of 60 into an assembly area, and they showed them slides in which they went over this story that we all know the whole story of the woman who allegedly was fined for going to church instead of going to a union meeting. You know, about half a dozen years ago, that was played up in every paper in the country. We know the whole story of it. We know how false a picture it presented. But these unorganized workers did not know the story. And the company, apparently realizing that there are a number of women working in that plant, good women, religious-oriented women, figured that this kind of story would turn them against the union. And this brings up something on this religious angle, where, as you know, we've been attacked on that score. And I think we ought to do a little thinking about this too. A little indignant thinking. Are we outside the pale of religion? Are unions some pagan institution? Outside the churches, so far as I'm concerned, there is no organization that is more rooted in religious principles than unions. What is a trade union movement and its program if it isn't really an extension of the Sermon on the Mount? Feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, sheltering the homeless, visiting the sick, burying the dead, caring for the orphans and the children, helping those who need comfort, comforting the afflicted. Isn't that the union program? And who, if not the union and its members, hunger and thirst after justice? I don't hesitate to speak in these terms because I glory in the fact that the labor movement is grounded and rooted in religious Judeo-Christian principles. And I think we ought, all of us, to glory in that fact. And make that fact known to people, because that makes us a rightful part of a people who are motivated by principles of decency and honor and justice. In his inauguration speech, President Kennedy, who incidentally was a very good friend of the labor movement, said that we must make sure that God's work is truly our own. I think the labor movement is part of that work. And whether we think of it consciously or not, I know that every organizer who is involved in that tedious, hazardous, frustrating, lonely job of organizing, a job that is also gratifying and exhilarating and satisfying beyond comprehension, is truly engaged in a work of great value. Now, it's our job to help the unorganized people recognize that we belong together. That's the skill of organizing. It takes skill. And it is my earnest hope And to any extent that I can help, I will help to bring into this cooperative organizing program in Mississippi the kind of skill that it takes to make of unorganized workers organized. But it is going to take, may I say in conclusion, it is going to take the combined effort. There's no room for freeloaders in the cooperative organizing drive in Mississippi. If you're going to be part of the cooperative drive, you've got to ante up. You're going to participate in a meaningful manner, or you're not part of the drive. In every respect, you can't be part of the labor movement in Mississippi if you're not affiliated with a central body and a state central body. You're holding back, you're dragging your feet, you're holding us all back. Our staff knows that there's no organizing drive that isn't finished until that new group of organized workers is affiliated with a local central body and a state central body. And that's going to be a hallmark of the organizing drive in this state, or it won't succeed. My friends, we have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot going for us. And I know that, in the words of the person who opened this meeting with prayer, and if we do our job, we will be given the insight and the courage and the wisdom to do that job.
Thank you, Alan. Again, I want to say that we appreciate very much the cooperation of you and your office, and we hope that in the next few months that we will be able to bring many more unorganized workers into the fold. We've had a number of people register since we began this morning, and frankly, we've got a lot more people in attendance than we thought we'd have. We didn't prepare for quite this large group. And I know that several of you haven't got the literature that we put out on the tables. We do have some more here on the table here in front of us. Those of you that didn't receive the literature, we'd like for you to get copies of it before the day is over. Now, I just want to comment briefly on the funny paper we put out for you there this morning and advise you where that came from. This is in a little booklet advertising the city of Tupelo that can be found in the motels and the hotel rooms in that particular area. We just tore the sheet out and reproduced it. We thought you'd find it interesting reading here this morning. This, of course, is an editorial by the editor of the Tupelo Journal, an old friend of the trade union movement in that area. Enough said. And this, of course, is a piece of literature that we passed out at the last conference, which does a pretty good job of pointing out how the business community and certain sections is making peace with the Negro leadership at the expense of the trade union movement. If you haven't got this, we want you to get that also. Then we also put out the minutes of the last conference. We'd like for you to get those. That's up here. And as I told you before, we still have a few copies, or a few of the speeches made by Tom Harris of the FL-CIO Legal Department at the conference where we had the attorneys in, and Lou Sherman, General Counsel of IBEW. At that time, they went into detail the new legal approach, as we referred to here this morning. We still have a few of those. Those that haven't received those speeches or had an opportunity to read them, we do have a few here. Now, we're going to break in just a few minutes for coffee. But before we do, I'm going to surprise the young man sitting in the back. He's still here. He's standing up now. Who has a campaign going on in Corinth IT&T plant. He put in a new innovation up there, and because I think he might not be here this afternoon, I'm going to ask him to advise you of that new innovation. Brother Stanley, director of the CWA. Bill, would you mind coming up to the mic and tell the group here what you're doing in Corinth? Something I don't think's been tried before in an organizing campaign. You've done had coffee? How'd you get in that coffee so quick?
So I want to correct what you said. The IPW, I understand, used something identical or similar to this in Mendenhall, the Universal campaign. What we did in Corinth, there's really no place to get 600-odd people together in a meeting in that plant. And being in the communications industry, we used our imagination trying to search for some way to communicate with the people. So we put in some, well, the official name's Codaphone. The telephone company has got different kinds of instruments that they can send you so that you can put a message on these particular machines, and the employees in the plant can call these numbers. Dial for truth, or whatever you want to call it, and you put your message on it, and it ain't worth a darn to let the people call. Fortunately, in Corinth, those people are calling it. It'll take about a maximum of about 18 calls an hour, and you can put in any number of these machines you want off of one number, make them rotary. And the cost is not too prohibitive. In most of the rural communities in Mississippi, you've got to get a straight business line phone, which costs you something around $10 a month or a little more. And these machines cost you about $12 to $15 a month, plus an installation charge.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Bill. It might have been tried elsewhere, but to my knowledge, it's the first time it's been tried in Mississippi, and I thought you'd be interested in this, and if I could, Bill might have to leave and go back to Corinth this afternoon. I wouldn't have the opportunity to explain it to you. We're going to break for coffee. We want the central body officers to come up in this corner after you get your coffee. Assistant Director Kessler wants to talk with you a few minutes. We want each international union to designate one man now to meet with Bob Starnes and Lige Williams and Paula A. Now, the reason we say one, because the parlor's small, and we'd like one person to represent that union, because we want a report out of you this afternoon at the conference about 1 o'clock. International unions in Parlor A with Bob Starnes, Central Labor officers here in this corner as soon as you get your coffee. Do we have any other announcements? Bill?
Since I won't be here this afternoon, I'd like to, as spokesman for CWA in this state, we have members in most all these rural hamlets throughout the state. Maybe not many. Anyone got a campaign going that's cleared and to the coordinator, and there's no unions fighting each other. If their representative will either contact me in Jackson or contact the coordinator, Bob Starnes, we'll see what we can do to get some contacts and leads in those communities for them. I want to make that statement because I'm leaving in just a few minutes from Corinth.
Thank you, Bill. I know they appreciate that. Now, we are going to recess for coffee. Coffee is ready to be served here. CLU people up here, as soon as you get your coffee, International Unions and Parley, we'd like then to ask the rest of you to come back and be here at 1 o'clock sharp. We want to try to get business through by 3 where you can get back on the road. Meeting stands to recess until... We advise you this morning that we do our best to get you out of here by 3 o'clock, and we're going to still make that effort. We're trying to make a determination at this time as to the number of unions represented at the conference. We know that we've got over 187 people registered, but we haven't yet made a determination as to the number of unions involved. I might add again that we are deeply grateful of the wonderful turnout at this conference. As a matter of fact, we've got about twice as many people here as we thought we'd have. As you notice, we set up about half this group this morning, so that makes us feel real good. It's an indication that we do have a great deal of interest within the labor movement of this state to do something about organizing the unorganized workers, and we want you to know we appreciate your attendance here again. We still got a few people yet to show, so I'll filibuster a couple of more minutes in the hopes that they will be here shortly. And in part of my filibuster, I'd like to quote from a speech that I made on the Gulf Coast just recently at a conference called by the Advisory Committee to the Civil Rights Commission. The conference was called On Job Opportunities. Some of you might have read something about that speech. It was given fairly good publicity, and for a change, favorable publicity, believe it or not. It may take some time. I'm talking about Mr. Owen Cooper now, the head of the State Chamber of Commerce. Well, I'll go back and pick it up. Again, I regret that Mr. Cooper is not present, for I wanted very much to debate these matters with him. We're talking about the state's industrial program now. It may take some time for him and other members of the business community to discover a simple economic fact, but I predict they will eventually do so. That simple economic fact is this: the economy of this state is dependent to a large degree upon the purchasing power of the state's workforce. An industrial program designed to attract low-wage industry is just not going to get the job done. Why, may I ask, and I'll ask you this question here today, with all of the ingredients to become an industrial empire, should we be asked to settle for such industry? The business community will eventually learn that one of our greatest needs is stable, high-wage industry. This type of industry means unions and the collective bargaining process. It therefore follows that our state's attitude towards collective bargaining must be changed. Collective bargaining in cooperation with organized labor must be encouraged and not discouraged, as is currently being done in many areas of the state. Providing job opportunities is just not enough. Those jobs must provide good wages, job security, and decent working conditions. These are the objectives of organized labor and can be secured only as a result of collective bargaining and a sense of responsibility on the part of labor and management. The development of a skilled workforce is essential in our state if our state is to move forward. Such a workforce can only be developed through a cooperative effort on the part of labor, management, and our school systems. Thought you'd be interested in that. We had a large group of employees at that conference. Our good friends from International Paper Company Ingalls Shipbuilding Corporation, Hercules in Heidelberg, they were all there. And they were all looking for some trained workers, regardless of race. Most of them got up and told us exactly what all they'd been doing about employment opportunities for everybody. Just thought you'd be interested in that conference we had, a few things that was said. And I regret again very much that Mr. Cooper wasn't able to attend the conference, because I wanted honestly to debate these things with him. Now, the Research and Development Center has announced the fact that they intend to raise the per capita income of this state up to or above the national average by the year 2000. And I say to you, that's too long off. And I've advised the people in the center that we are going to do everything that we can help them, but we don't intend to wait till the year 2000. And the fact that we have about 200 representatives here today indicates that, by George, you feel the same way. So I say to you here today that things are looking good, that within the next 4 or 5 years, I think we'll see a tremendous change in the state of Mississippi, provided you and I put our shoulders to the wheel and get on with the job. We'll be talking about political action this afternoon. We'll bring some other things for your attention then. Now, when we recessed this morning, we asked the various international unions to meet with Brother Starnes. We wanted to make another determination as to what commitments we could expect out of the various international unions in terms of manpower and what have you. The FLCO, as you've already been advised, has agreed to open an office here in Jackson. We're in the process now. They are in the process now of getting the office ready. It'll be just down the hall from us in the same building. Brother Starnes will be the coordinator in the office. As soon as everything's fixed up, we'll let you know, give you the phone number and all of these things. But the FLCIO and this organizing department has committed itself to the coordinated effort. They'll have the equipment to produce the handbills you need, anything you need in an organizing campaign. The equipment will be there, which means that you won't have to wait on us, as some of you have in the past. Because of our workload, we wasn't able to get the stuff ready for you right when you wanted it. We won't have that problem now. The office will be equipped with the necessary equipment to help you get the job done. Brother Starnes is the coordinator, and he met with the various international union representatives when we recessed at 11 o'clock. So at this time, I'm going to ask Brother Starnes for a report on that conference and find out what commitments, if any, have been made in addition to those that have already been made. Now, we have right now, as Bob pointed out to you, a number of campaigns in progress that actually are the result of the conferences that we have already held. We got a situation in Clarksdale, an electrical appliance plant up there, where within about 2 weeks' time, IBEW was able to petition for an election. Get that, less than 2 weeks. And that was a result of the fact that our unions were able to get together, reach an agreement, and say IBEW can have this plant. We'll work over here some other place. And we got some contacts there. We sent somebody up. Brother Wycliffe went up. And within just a matter of a few days, they had enough cards to petition for an election. That's the importance, my friends, of this cooperative effort. The situation in Corinth that CWA reported on here this morning is another product of our efforts to coordinate and get agreement. Means that IBEW and IUE and other unions that might be interested in this field came to an understanding that, well, we'll work on this plant over here and let you have that plant in Corinth. And we're very hopeful here today that they will win that election in Corinth next Tuesday, I believe it is, right, Bob? Wednesday, next Wednesday. Now, I made a statement here this morning that I will have to stand corrected on. I was thinking that the telephone deal that CWA's got in Corinth was the first time it was put into effect here, but I was advised during the recess that IBEW actually used this in the Mendenhall situation, and that they actually got sued because of some things they said over the telephone. So I think it might be a good idea for me to ask the curly-headed gentleman against the wall over there if he'd like to have a remark or two to say about that. Dixon, would you like to come up here for a minute? Dixon Powell don't need any introduction, I don't think, but I asked him to show me a union card before he could get in the hall, and he said, I got a damn better union you have. Of course, that's true, a lawyer. Okay, Dixon.
Mr. President, Mr. Starnes, Mr. Knight, trade unionist, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to get out of here by 3 o'clock as he says you are, I better not make a speech. But I came in this morning just about the time that he was announcing that they had a new technique. That is, you put recordings on tape and pass out numbers and urge everybody to call them, and they'll give you a message. Well, as he told you, IBEW used this in Mendenhall, and as a result of it, we've got two $110,000 lawsuits for slander and libel and general malfeasance in that. So it must have been we got a union down there too, so it must have been very successful. But this was somewhat unusual. Newspaper editors are suing the union for what Wally Wycliffe said on the recordings about the newspaper editors. Everything unusual happens to me and the IBEW when you get Wycliffe and some of these boys mixed up in it. So, if you use these techniques, be careful about what you say on them. You might have your lawyer check them. I had to get a plug in for my union. Now, to prove to you that my union is stronger than Claude's, he's got the right to work law. We're exempt from that. In fact, the legislature passed a law that said you had to belong, the lawyers had to belong to my union and pay the dues they couldn't practice. And you haven't got anything like that. We don't have to do any organizing. So you judge for yourself. Well, I am glad to see and shake hands and hug the ladies. Many of you here, they're friends of mine. That's one of the reasons I like to be associated with this group. And here I get to her. Where's Frida? Frida, I hope many years that we continue. Thank you for letting me be with you again. I've got to go back now and work on the IBEW slander and libel suit for what Wycliffe said on that telephone recording about the editors in here. But if I can be of service to you, don't hesitate to call on me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dixon. For your information, we passed out the funny paper this morning. We got a jump on you here. Bob, are you ready? Brother Starnes will now report on the results of the meeting of the international people and anything else that he sees fit, Brother Starnes.
Brother Chairman, members of our unions again, I can well understand Dixon Powell's coming down here and telling about how he likes to come to our meetings, because I happened to see him in the back of the room this morning when he first came in and saw a very lovely lady throw her arms enthusiastically about him. And I have another little bit of news for him. You're getting out of your jurisdiction, young man. You better be careful. That's my jurisdiction you're encroaching on. But seriously, the meeting we have had here today just fills me with a lot of enthusiasm, and it makes me very optimistic about what the future holds. As a matter of fact, I am almost as optimistic as the young boy who was well known among his family and friends as being the eternal optimist. And one Christmas, his daddy thought he would play a little trick on him and he would really test his optimism. So Christmas Eve night, he hung the little boy's stocking up. And he had that afternoon gone back down on the far side of the South 40, and he had picked up some dry horse droppings. And he came and placed those in the little boy's stocking. Next morning, the little fellow woke up thinking about Santa Claus, and he rushed into the room, and there the stocking was, and his daddy called him and says, "Buddy, Santa Claus come to see you?" "Yes, sir, and he brought me a horse, but he got away." Well, I don't want this business we're getting ready to start to get away from us. And I think one of the keys to anything, any success we might have, one of those keys would be the people here from local unions, from towns. You know, you can do more good than any 19 organizers all put together. Because the people in that town and in that community know you. And when we come in, we're strangers. And I think in addition to the help you give in introducing us and guiding us and riding with us and taking us here, there, and yonder, you can do a tremendous good in the community. You can tell the storekeepers when you buy your groceries every week, union money bought these groceries, and if I didn't have a union, I wouldn't buy so many groceries, and you wouldn't be making so much money. Tell your automobile dealer that, and your gasoline dealer, and the man who sells you your tires and your clothes. Let those folks know that you belong to a union, that union is helping you, and indirectly that it is helping them. And take it a step further. When merchants in a town begin to interfere in a union organizing effort, and I might say parenthetically, it's none of their dead-blasted business if people want to join a union. You go tell them, and tell them quick, and tell them in no uncertain terms. Keep your mouth out of our business, or we'll take our business somewhere else. Now that happened in a small town this past spring, where the Amalgamated Clothing Workers Union had an organizing campaign underway, and I might add it was successful. The campaign hadn't been underway long before some of the merchants in town began to talk to some of the ladies in the plant and say, "Now, we don't want any old nasty stinking union in here. You just leave that union alone." Well, the first couple of ladies that these two different merchants got a hold of were the wrong people to talk to. Because they got told right fast, "Now look, we work in the plant, you don't. We want a union, and it's our business. And if you don't keep your mouth out of our business, we'll take our business somewhere else, even if we have to drive 35 miles to Heidelberg to buy our groceries and our clothes. That happened twice. And then the business community had a meeting where the community, the Chamber of Commerce of the town, was going to decide what they were going to do about that old nasty union. They just about were the point of deciding what they were going to do, and one of the merchants got up and said, well, now I'll tell you, you better count me out, because I talked to Miss So-and-so, and she told me to keep my nose out of her business, or she'd go to Heidelberg and buy her stuff. And the other one got up and says, I talked to Miss So-and-so, and she told me the same thing. As a result, that Chamber of Commerce voted to keep their nose out of the union's business. And they did. I'm talking about the town of Richton, Mississippi. And you can do that over and over. There's an old saying that says money talks. And believe me, it does. And that's why these employers get so exercised when their employees decide they want a union. You know, it always has been rather paradoxical to me that an employer never opens his mouth when an employee joins a church, or the Masons, or the Woodmen of the World, or the Ku Klux Klan, or the French Foreign Legion, or any other thing you can think of. But by God, don't join a union. It's going to cost me some money. Then they have a fit. And they begin to tell you all the nasty things that they can think of and dream. And if they can't think of enough and dream enough, they go hire a hotshot lawyer somewhere. And I don't know but few lawyers that there's any truth in. Dixon, you're accepted if you're still here. But you can help combat those things when they begin to tell the people in a plant about the strikes, how this old union boss can come and call you out on a strike, and why people can swallow that, how they think one person can go and make 500 people do something they don't want to do. I don't know, the biggest bunch of cowards I ever heard of. You can tell them what experience you've had with a strike. They talked about these union outsiders. And another funny thing to me, that campaign in Corinth, Mississippi, they are bellowing their tongues out about the outsiders. The International Telephone and Telegraph Company was born in Europe. The biggest part of its body still remains in Europe. They have 140, round figure, 140,000 employees in Europe and South America, and 32,000 in the United States. But we are outsiders. Or they pulled another cute gimmick up there. This one amuses you too. They made a record, as companies are doing more and more today. And the plant manager tells them all about why they should not join a union. And every employee is given that record. And told you take it home and play it on your own record player. And the hooker in the one in Corinth that we've not run into before, they're told that certain of these records have the company slogan on the tape. And if your record has it, you come tell us. And we'll give you a transistor radio. That's to try to make sure that everybody listens to the record. Well, dadgum, the International Telephone and Telegraph Company makes transistor radios in Spain by the carload and cost them about 30 cents a piece. they're giving their people something big. But enough of that. I could keep on talking about things like that from now till 6 o'clock, and I think everybody wants to leave by 3, so I'm going to hush. Except to say again to the local union people, we're going to depend on you. You can be invaluable in an organizing campaign. Now, we met with the international union representatives, and those unions have committed 18 full-time men to work or continue working in this state as of now. About 10 additional part-time men were pledged, and certain unions said we will have a man or men in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, and those will total 5 or 6 more men, which should make a total of 32 to 34 people if they are all here at the same time. Now, I think that indicates a seriousness on the part of the international unions. It indicates that these unions are going to make an effort, along with the central bodies and the local unions and the AFL-CIO and the Mississippi AFL-CIO. And again, I want to say, if we all get in the boat and grab a paddle and go to paddling, I think we can get across this river, and we'll all continue to be optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. The office again will be in the same building as the State Council office. Long distance call for R.E. Morris. Yes, right here. Bob's office he'll be in his office shortly. Same building as the State Council, just down the hall. And I understand that the people that we rent from are going to put in a weightlifting device, recreation center just across the hall from you. Pool table. I don't know about the free whiskey, but I understand that they will have a recreation center just across the hall from you, Bob. Coaches. And that when the organizers get frustrated and would like to get a little exercise, that the facilities will be available to you just across the hall there. Our secretary has just advised me that according to a check on the restorations here today, we have, as I've already said, over 187, I believe. 187? Over 187. Last count, we had several registered since the last count, but anyhow, it's in the neighborhood of 190 people that did register here today. 22 international unions, 9 central labor unions, and some of the representatives from the central labor bodies represent unions that we did not count in the 22 total, which means that we have over 25 various international unions actually represented here today, which is a pretty doggone good figure any way you look at it. Well, Brother Starnes, I feel that this is pretty well the end of our discussion on the coordinated effort, that we think we have everything in shape now to proceed with the campaign. And Brother Knight and myself now would like to take up with you another matter of the utmost importance here in the state, and that's none other than a concerted political campaign, which we deem also to be very necessary. Yes. Brother Mizell, tell them who you are and what union you represent. close the door. Bye.
My name is Huey Mosdell. I represent local paper maker local 203 out of Mullet Point, Mississippi. My address is 3137 Turner Street in Mullet Point, Mississippi. I want the Chamber of Commerce in that town to get that address, please. Now, you've been talking about coordination here this morning. Now, you've heard from some of the top officials of organizations, international unions, stuff like that. I'm going to try to bring you a little message here today of what we got to do in this state from the grassroots. Now, I'm a chairman of the local union, by the way. Let me put that to you. And I'm going to try to bring you a message of what's got to be done the way I see it. Now, Brother Robert Robin is sitting in the back of this hall here today, or somewhere around here. I saw him a while ago. He's chairman of the Central Labor Group in my county. And I know that it's a certain amount of reluctance I get up here. And I fully realize that Brother Robbie was brought this message, and I'm sure he did at his committee meeting here in the lunch hour. I want to tell you a few things here today. Now, the hell with these international people, let's face it. Now, let's get on to what we got to do in this state. It's up to the people in the plan organization campaign the way we're going to get this done. You know what? I got news for you. I don't know whether Brother Starr knows this or not. I don't care whether he knows it or not. But I believe it's on the 9th to the 10th, somewhere along there. We have an election in Jackson County, Coastal Chemical Corporation, to see whether they're going to accept the union and whether they're not going to do it or not. Now, I'm going to tell you here now, we're going to lose that election. Now, why are we going to lose? Because I haven't done my job as chairman of that local union enough. And my organization committee haven't done their job enough to get an end-of-plan organization to do this job for. Now, I'm putting the facts out here to you now. Now, these people told you what's wrong. I'm going to tell you how to do it. Now, that's gone to Jackson County, Mississippi. I think it's one of the strongest organized counties, or one of just as strong organized counties in the state. But we still only have about 60%. We've got scab organizations operating all over the county. I'm not happy about this. Not just a little bit, I'm not. Now, this is the first time that you've ever heard me grace the microphone in this hall. And I've attended state labor convention. I've attended these conventions before and everything else. But it burns me up. Now, I'm talking to the union people. I'm talking to the rank and file. Or to you officers, or whatever position you might hold. This is your problem. This is your security to get out here and get the job done. And don't you say because you lose an election that Starnes or Claude Ramsey or somebody else didn't give you the support. This is your job in your community. And by golly, it ain't going to be done no other way.
Be reading that section.
You talking about Article 4 or just there's a section in that article?
Section 4 down at the bottom. Everybody ready? Now, this is one of the sections that's ambiguous in a sense.
It moves into your area. This is a place that the rank and file people. You got a sister, a brother-in-law, or uncle, a fifth cousin, or someone that works in that plant, and this is where you got to go together. I've never called on Paul Stone. I've never called on Paul Ramsey. By the way, he's a member of my local union. To help me in an organization campaign. And you know what? people here today as the people can do it. And I thank you.
Brother Mizell, we will be calling on you shortly. I understand that the chemical workers need a little help in Jackson County, and I will advise them that the fact that you have some people in the local union, an organizing committee that's raring it to bit and want to get the job done. So I'll send them to see you next week. Appreciate that very much, Dewey. I don't know what's the easiest way of doing this, but I need some information out of the people here today, and I don't want to take too much time in getting it. I've been asked to make a survey by the state FFL-CIO of the various people serving on anti-poverty boards in the state. And maybe the best way to do that is for me to ask you to write your name and what organization you're serving on and leave it here with me before you leave. I think it would take too much time to try to make that survey orally and write it down, but I would appreciate it very much if those of you present today who are presently serving on anti-poverty boards in the state, if you'd write your name and the address and what organization you are working with on a piece of paper, I would certainly appreciate it. In addition to that, if you know others in the labor movement are doing the same thing who are not present, I would also like to have that information. So would you be kind enough to write that down and leave it with me before we break up this afternoon? Appreciate it very much. Now, Brother Knight and myself, and of course the Executive Committee of the State Council, have been discussing, since our last convention, as a matter of fact, what we feel would be a program that would bring results, we'll say, of political action in the state. As we've already mentioned here today, this is an election year. Our legislature will be reapportioned with or without the help of the state courts, which means that we have an opportunity now to make some real progress. The old-time speaker who run the show for so long is out of the picture now. He died, Mr. Sellers, which means that that position will be up the next time the legislature convenes in a regular session. And all of this means one thing, that the labor movement has a real opportunity in Mississippi in the very near future if we just put our shoulders to the wheel, not only in organizing the unorganized as we've been talking today, but get ourselves together politically and make sure that we elect people to office that will represent the working class of people in this state. Brother Knight, would you like to come up now and talk to the group a little bit about what you and I have been talking about and suggest to them a program, and then we want you to participate. We want your views very much on what you think the State Council should be trying to do in the next few months. Brother Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel rather silly getting up here after the speeches that have been made today, but I'll do my best in my bashful way to say a few words about some of the problems that we have. I hope that will be of some help to us. Before we get underway, most of you, I'm sure, recall that the state AFL-CIO, with the cooperation of the good people throughout the state like you, our employers, local unions and all, maintained a booth at the state fair last October, which we feel was a major success. This was the first time this has ever been attempted to this extent, and we feel real good about the nice compliments that we've had from people outside the labor movement, from our people who came through the fairgrounds and saw our booth. At this time, Brother Marvin Taylor over here and Brother Dewey Mizell have some pictures, color pictures, that was taken And you'll see some people in the pictures that you know. Some don't look so good, some look better, and some look real good. But at any rate, some of you have probably seen these pictures, but at any rate, we would like for those of you that haven't to pass them, to look at them and pass them on down the one next to you, and the boys will pick them up at the back. There's two sets. The sets are just alike, so if you, these over here, don't see the ones that are over here, you don't worry about it because they're just alike. So if you boys will let them have them, and you people glance at them and at the same time try to pay attention to what we're doing here. We'd like for you to see these. And incidentally, let me say this, that based on the results of this effort, and I too want to take just a minute here to thank about 7 different fellows who represent international unions who served on a committee with me to help coordinate this thing and get this stuff ready for exhibit and whatnot. I want to thank them again. I've thanked all of the locals that helped, that sent personnel, likewise wrote all of the companies that contributed things as prizes and as display. We give away 53 nice prizes, courtesy of the employers that our people work for. Based on that, we have again reserved space at the fairground, the same place we had before, in addition to another 10 feet of space. So we are hopeful. We know we'll have your cooperation again on this project. We'll be contacting you from time to time. We can't wait until the week before the fair to do this. There's an awful lot of work involved. We're going to be looking forward to your participation in this effort again. Thank you for that. Now, you've heard a lot here today about organized and unorganized. This is the most important part of our overall program. Now we come to the part where we talk just a little about trying to organize the people that we've already got organized, if that makes sense. I hope you follow. We're going to talk for just a few minutes about how to best use our talent and our efforts, and our skills, and our know-how in the field of politics. All of the problems that have been talked about here today, every one of them in the field of organizing, can be traced back to the ballot box. Our negligence as citizens and taxpayers, as trade unionists, to take part in politics all the way from registration right on through a campaign to get out to vote on election day and see that that ballot's in the box and cast for the proper person. I'd like to go back for just a minute to our activity in 1963. In 1963, the various central bodies over the state endorsed some 60 candidates for the state legislature. Now, this is mixed between the House and the Senate. I don't have the exact number in the House and the exact number in the Senate at the moment. But in 60 contests for the legislature, a position was taken by the central body in that particular area. 40 of those 60 candidates were elected. Now, that's pretty good for Mississippi, I would say. Not pretty good, very good, I would think. Now, this doesn't mean that every one of these 60 people were flaming liberals or flaming pro-labor people, but at least they were broad-minded enough and responsible enough that they would sit down and talk to our committees in the local areas, and there were people that the committee felt was the best out of the group, and consequently they supported it. Now, we made more progress in the Senate than we did in the House of Representatives. And I think the record speaks for itself. Now, Claude could tell you more about this than I can because he's the legislative representative. He's been over there. He's worked with every one of those fellows, knows every one of them individually, personally. We did not come out of this legislature, have not come out of this Johnson administration legislature,
with anything too destructive. And that is, unfortunately, the way we've had to measure progress since I've been big enough to remember anything in Mississippi, is by the amount of destruction. And the reason for this is that we have had enough friends in the state Senate, particularly that head up the various important committees, that we've been able to get some real punitive anti-labor legislation killed in the committee. Now that's where you do or you don't is in your committees. Claude mentioned a moment ago the late Speaker of the House of Representatives. This man had a tiger paw grip on the House of Representatives for a long, long time. He appointed the chairman of all the committees, and you know the rest. If you got a piece of good legislation in a committee headed by Buddy Newman of Issaquah County or by Thompson McClellan of Clay County, you can kiss her good night because she's never coming out. But if you got a piece of legislation in one of the committees headed by one of the fellows of that kind, that'll hurt you and I, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to hit the floor and it's going to pass if you're not awfully careful. So we've had enough friends. The job that was done by our people in this state in 1963 was enough that we managed to scramble through this legislature thus far without anything real damage as compared to some of the things in past years. So that shows us one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that if we're minded to do it, with the organizations we have, with the central body, with the local unions, with the state organizations, we can get out here this summer and we can elect some more friends of labor and of all of the people, if you please, the common people, to the legislature in the state of Mississippi. We had hoped today to have before us maps in sufficient quantity setting out the new senatorial districts and the number of seats allocated each county in the House of Representatives under the new apportionment plan. But you know where that's at, and we don't know how long the judges are going to sit on that. I wish to goodness myself, and I know you do, that they'd go ahead and throw it back to state's lap and say, well, this is no good, we'll apportion the thing like we ought to have a long time ago. But I will say this, immediately after there's been some apportionment decision made, we will reproduce in quantity maps of the state which will help us all familiarize ourselves with the senatorial districts and the number of representatives to be allocated each county under the new plan. Because we've got to have this. I don't know myself. I've looked at the map. I couldn't tell you to save my life right now because my life depended on it, where the senatorial district boundary lines lay in this thing that's before the court now. So we all have to familiarize ourselves with this plan. This is most important. I think probably that this is a long-range forecast. It's just me thinking. But from where we sit now, knowing what we know, it's most likely that most of our concentration and our efforts, and I'm talking about from the state council down to the local union, will be concentrated on the local offices and primarily those of the legislature this summer. Now we're going to be ready to assist the central bodies in all of their deliberations, in all of the mail that they feel should be sent to the membership, never make it, and I'm sure you agree. And they're still, if I'm any judge at all, going to lay down the real issues. That is most of it. We're going to lay down the issues, the things that you and I are interested in, the things that will be of benefit to your welfare and mine. And I'm telling you, they're going to continue to knock down fence around the state of Mississippi and talk about her sovereignty and cuss everybody outside of the state, everybody in Washington, the national administration, and etc. They're going to talk about the things that appeal to the emotions of the people. And I'll say to you here this afternoon what I said before, that any candidate for any office, whether it be a candidate for constable or governor, that starts appealing to the people to their emotions rather
what is then any type of educational program that has to do with organizing or political action, I think those two items certainly should be considered for at least part of the program anyway. Bringing us some educational items or educational films or some type of film on organizing and some type probably on political action. And then with you and Claude speaking on those items, why I think the Saturday session would be very successful.
Saturday session, you say? Brother Robin?
Chairman of Central Body, Jackson County. I've thought about it quite a bit, and I think, just as a suggestion, that it might be a good idea if you have the time, one of your state officials come and spend much of a couple of days in the area visiting the local union offices, with the office in person, and get them interested. And then set up your meeting from there, whether it be an area meeting or a local meeting. That I don't think will have too much bearing on it. The first thing is to get your leadership of your local union interested. And I think one of the state officials would have more influence in that respect than we simplify it in the county.
Thank you, Brother Robin. Brother W.O. Bush says, fairly close by. Come up to the mic, Brother Bush.
I think the Saturday evening session would be fine, and we'd be glad to have you at any of the meetings, and we'll go along with any program that you come up with.
Thank you. Where's L.D. Clark? Meridian. Okay. Clayton Moss, Greenville.
I'd like to say that we would probably prefer night meetings. However, if we don't think we should on Saturday, then we can find I think. I do think we can get all our local union officers to help. They're already in. And we're probably around here like that.
Good.
We are making
Thank you, Clayton. Billy Williams, Harrison County. Okay. Is George Johnson in the house? President Jackson Central Body? Do we have an officer of the Jackson Central body here? Brother Saltzman? Go over to Mike. Give us your views, please. Okay, thanks. Bill Powell, Heidelberg.
Brother Knight, I believe that either a Saturday afternoon session or a Saturday night would be feasible in our particular area here around Heidelberg. I think two of the main subjects that would be very definitely needs to be covered in the workshop and the program of agenda that you may put together would be affiliation and political activities, because it seems that those are the two main things that our people are falling down on, especially affiliation. I believe that we're gaining some progress possibly in political action, but those are the two that I believe personally could be very feasible in our area. And of course, if you see fit, I think that would be good for our particular central body program.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here representing the North Delta Central Labor Council, Clarksdale? If there's anyone here from that area, feel free to speak up. Do we have someone here from Corinth? Doris Miller, where is she? Yeah, WA, excuse me.
Saturday morning session scheduled, a couple of hours, and after this I was going to show up to class. So I feel that the night sessions will be much better for effective in our area. And the program, the suggestion for a program, I think the affiliation problem is bad. In Corinth, we have the bricklayers, plasters, laborers, and the group from the grocery stores and the national stores that are not attending the meetings now. In fact, they're not even affiliated at one time they were. So I think affiliation and the political education is something that ought to be more effective for that area. And also, since the organizing campaign is in progress there, any new information that might be brought regarding the organizing suggestions that might be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Stephen. Aaron Pounders, Columbus.
I think it's a wonderful idea now trying to get together and get these things rolling. We concur, I think, Saturday, and when it's permissible on your schedule that you can notify me sometime a week or so ahead of time. I can contact all the locals in my area. We have some new locals there, and I have to talk with you about this, joining, signing up with the Central and state bodies, and working together. Also, restoration and voting. And I would truthfully say that Saturday would be a great day for us. We might be working out your schedule too. And we invite you and call at any time that you can come into our area. Our local Central Body meeting is held on the second Tuesday night at the CWA Hall area, which is across the street from the U.S. Post Office upstairs in our college building. We welcome you to come and be with us anytime. And as I say, if you give another week or so's notice, where I can contact all the local presidents of the different Local System 17 to allow us to actually give representation there for our state of meeting. Work with it any way we can. It's a good idea. We'll go hard and hard.
Thank you, Brother Pounder. Anyone here from Vicksburg? Is that, have we missed any central bodies now? Did that get them all, Paul? I think that,
We've heard from 9, and we've got 9 represented.
well, that must be, is anybody else, any local union officers, international reps? As I said, you're welcome to express your views too. Maybe there's somebody here from some of the areas where we don't have the central body officers here. If you have something you'd like to say, why, feel free to say it. Brother Carmen, retail clerk.
But as I've already discussed with you as well, I'm getting a list of all the CLUs in the state of Mississippi because we endured a 14-month strike, a local complaint group, borrowed about $180,000 from various unions. And we dropped affiliations with all of the Mississippi Labor Council, even the state. We are reaffiliated with the state and most of the central labor unions. But in the event that we're not, as soon as I get this list, we will reaffiliate and we will have delegates in meetings.
Thank you, sir. That's what we like to hear. B.C. Smith, Jackson County.
I'd like to just briefly say a few words here, mostly pertaining to, as you mentioned, your code document. That's the way that my local, for the last, I believe, some 5 or 6 years have done 100% code. If there's anything that disturbs me is to be in a plant somewhere and hear someone writing about paying you. They're $4, $3, whatever they do. These people, they never go to a union meeting. They never read their correspondence from the state council office or anything. They'll read these newspapers. I got news for you. They'll read them. They'll believe everything you send them. And then they'll get out here. They'll lambaste me. They'll lambaste Tom, Flo, or anybody else that gets out here and tries to help them. And that's what you will be trying to help them. People's going to believe what they want to believe, whether it's the truth or whether it's a lie. I've seen this in many cases. I've seen people that set up and talk about this labor move, and they don't realize that they're talking about themselves because they're part of it. I saw an officer of a local union in an office training school yesterday. Has had a lot of trouble in the plant, a rival rump group, I call them, people coming in there trying to raise their union. I hope that's not a newspaper man after me. Well, if it is, it won't be the first time I got news for you. But anyway, leave that is made. This officer of this local union says, what are we going to do? Says, they're faxing out cards for disaffiliated with the union. It's got the plant manager payment statement. Can they get out of the union? Well, the representative teaching the school tried to hedge around a little bit, you know, and tell them that their contract stipulates the time that you can get out. Some of them 10 days, 15 days, or 30 days. Most of you know this in your contract, so you're a union, but you wouldn't be here, right? But anyway, old man Mark Fisher, Vice President Regional Director, finally had to get up and tell him, said, look, I got news for you. You live in a right to work state, they get out of that local union anytime they want to. In other words, I said all of that to say this. That thing in your contract ain't worth a hatchet dadgum if you got a right to work law in your state. Now, we got to get in politics, whether we like it or not. We're full of shit. Now, we might as well roll up our sleeves, put our shoulder to the wheel, and decide to do a job. I'm not talking to you people, but we've got to get back our rank and file membership. Try to educate if it's in the newspaper. So we've got to figure some way. Lord, I don't know how to do it, but he'll have George Means shot. But anyway, we've got to get our people some way. If there's some way, if you hadn't gotten it here, I'm sure the Congress is playing with it. When they start talking about coats, they're not going to give $1 to coal. They give it all these civil rights groups. It's all thrown away. Well, if you can prove to these people some things that I just pointed out a while ago, regardless of what kind of contract you negotiate with these people, one stroke of the pen be taken away from them in the House of Legislation or even the Hall of Congress. Well, it's not something. We've got a job to do, so we'll do it here. But we've got to have some help. We've got to get back our local rank and file membership and try to educate them. I wish this every local union in the state of Mississippi was affiliated with Mississippi FLCL, that we could put 2 or 3 people that would do nothing in the world to go around with these local unions, the central bodies, and try to get our people educated on their own organization, organized labor, their own local union. We can do that. It's just a matter of getting the people out. And everyone, I don't care how any better anybody is right, but if you can prove to that fellow that he is wrong before you have it, then you've got to do it. So we've got a job to do. Let's go out there, people. Let's get these code dollars. Let's get, I don't know what we're going to do in this statewide race coming up, governor, what have you. Tom called him a lot of names. I'm sure he didn't call him what he wanted to. But now this is a serious situation. We've got just about every kind of person you can imagine running for governor. What are we going to do? And they're all not going to be elected. There's not going to be one governor. Now who is it going to be? We've got a job. We can do it. I know we can do it. So let's get out to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Smith. Brother Wayman Goodman, IUE, Columbus.
Thanks, Tom. I started up here a little bit ago, and when Smith came up, he almost called me out of there. So there was a few things concerning the Central Labor Union and its organization that I have rolled around in my mind and talked to the people about that I never have one. I would just like to mention here and get some reaction or your feelings concerning it. It appears to me that in organizing a central labor group, you don't have too often much trouble getting interest. You have a whole hell of a lot of trouble holding it. I have a point here that I've wondered about, and it seems to me like that maybe we tend to destroy our interest or run our interest away by holding a meeting at a prescribed time with nothing to do or nothing to say. But my point is this, and I may be talking completely to the top of my head, which I usually do, but just saying that you've got to hold a meeting once a month, if there doesn't come up that much, why bother to call the people, notify your people to come out to a meeting when you've got nothing to do? Why couldn't these meetings be set up on the call of the president or on occasion when you actually do have activity? So when the people come to a meeting, they find activity going on, something happening. Now maybe we should have something going on all the time. I'm not disputing that, but you know we don't have it. And this is a election area. This one point I wanted to pursue because, for example, now with our organizational effort, I think we've got some activities there that certainly should be worked on in each of our areas. Now we've got a campaign coming. I don't think it would be too hard for us to get interest from all of our various groups concerning these items. Then when the thing rolls off a little bit, we find that continuing to meet once a month, few places people were dragging out, somebody else they finally dragged back in. You don't have too much of an organization. This is possible under the Constitution or under the setup of the mason arrangement of this type to meet quarterly on come up in the meantime, you just call a special meeting. These sessions, when you fellows come in from the state level, the central body, it's advertised in advance, and you will get a pretty good turnout. The next month, we come around, everybody's there. This is the type of thing that I've got in mind, and I'd like to see some study put into it, some effort put into it, and not be calling these meetings when you actually have something going on.
Thank you, Brother Goodman. In answer to that, I'm not sure just what the AFL Constitution says with respect to that, but put it this way, I don't know of any central bodies, that is in Mississippi. Of course, I know more about those than I do in any other state. I don't know of any central bodies that have a setup of that kind. In other words, when necessary meeting, I think is what you're referring to. I'm of the opinion that each central body is supposed to meet at least once a month. As I say, I'm not sure about constitutional provisions of this. Some of them, I know we've had several in the state that have met twice for some time. Some of them have cut one meeting out and only meet once a month. I will agree with you that there are times when you actually have very little business, and of course this makes a dull meeting, and people go back home and say, well, that was an hour and a half, an hour or 2 hours wasted. I would say this, that any way that we could be of assistance to a central body by way of providing them with films. We have a number of films here in the State Council office that belongs to the State Council. We have the catalog of the FLCIO film library. Of course, the ones they have do cost, some of them not too much. Ones that you would have time to show at a central body meeting, the minimum cost is $3. There's several local unions I know of that have contacted me during the last few months. They've gone to showing a film of some kind at their local union meetings, they're having some of the same problems that you outlined there in the central body meeting and the local union meeting. Well, they're trying to build interest and attendance and create some more activity in the local union meeting by showing a short film, 15, 20-minute film, and there are a number of those that are rather interesting. And I think this would be something that the central body should consider, would be the possibility of, on these occasions when you don't have much business, when you can see that it will be a dull meeting, of trying to create something extra or in addition to what you normally have in order to attract the attention of a better crowd. I feel like this would be an overall boost to your attendance and to the livelihood of your central body. And anything, as I said, that we can do by way of films, helping you get films or suggesting anything that might help with your program, certainly we'll be glad to do it. This is an area that needs a lot of consideration. But with the organizing effort going on, if we get it kicked off like we hope to, then there's certainly going to be a lot fuller agenda in most of the central body areas. But this is something that is a problem. I recognize this, and I think every central body in the state has that problem. Yes, sir.
Most of these people say I'm a Yankee transplanted down here from Massachusetts. I represent the Textile Workers Union of America. And last year while I was up in Georgia, people up there in the home Georgia area decided to do something about the public library. That is putting some of the labor literature in public libraries. I know people that are doing that down here, which is a very important thing, because most of your kids in high school who are usually come out of high school are anti-union. And to have these books available where they can do some research, they can learn something about labor. I don't know if the public libraries down here have anything about labor in the labor section of the public library.
Well, very few of them actually. Now, I'll tell you what, we're now in the process. Well, very few of them actually. We're hopeful to increase this from time to time and consequently get it into Well, of course, it varies LD from one area to the other. I don't guess there's problems in any one area like those in any other area, actually. And you have your situation just a wee bit different over there, probably than any other place in the state. What he's saying about what they're doing over there and the agenda is true, because when I go over there, I'm lucky if he lets me get up about 10:30, and then they're all ready to throw rocks at me for keeping them all night, see? So, I'm just kidding you, LD, but I think that this is a tremendous job here to try to run a central body and keep it going and keep the interest up. And what'll work one place might not work in another, but every time we meet, I think we get ideas from various places that you might take back and try in your own area. Does anybody else want to say anything on this subject? We've got to get this Pickett in Heidelberg. They can't hear me. Thank you, Sister Pickett. Is there anything else? We're going to have to, we won't turn you.
I'd like to speak from the lady's point of view.
Raise your mic just a little more, Brother Broom. You're not quite getting in it.
Not being a member of any central board, you know, if this politician doesn't have an issue to create. And so it is with, we're talking about lagging interest in union and its activities. I'd like to speak from a local level that in our union there's some 900 members on the plant. That we try to keep the interest in this union going in all time. We have a heart for, there are a number of those present here today in our union that get to keep this idea going on all the benefits of the union that they derive from all points of where they work, their insurance, fringe benefits of all time. Constantly remind them that they can get these only through their union. And I might say, might add that we do have good attendance at membership meetings, and we try to have an issue going all the time. I might add that this time in our county, I'm sure that two of the members of that union are going to be candidates for elective office in the county. I might add that they should get out in front. They should portray to the people what you stand for. You'll never know.
That's right. Thank you, Brother Broom.
movement here in Jackson all my life, 33 years I've been in this. So, I'd like to, on this community activity, I'd like to see the Central Labor Union for what you have in different towns. Without bringing the funds for the March-of-Dimes, the Salvation Army. I know we used to do that here. We have done all of those types of projects, just like the road go on to something else. We stuck our signs up over there. South Jackson Central Labor Union, the Jacksonville Trade Council. We rung those bells for one day. There ain't nobody gonna advertise us unless we kind of advertise ourselves. And that affects a lot of people. You get to know a lot of people. Those things I find is very effective. I know the Meridian delegation, some of them could certify this, that, in city council meetings. Things that interest us, we don't attend those council meetings. Doesn't mean you got to say anything, but you'll be there. And Claude and Thomas and the firemen especially, some of the village aides in this town are familiar with that. Just a few weeks ago around here, because we had some issues over there that we didn't have anything directly that affected us, but the fact that we were there, the politicians do it. You wonder what you're doing there. You know a lot better than you stay away. You don't have to say anything. But I'd like to see the Central Labor Union participate a little bit more in these things. Up to the Salvation Army, the March of Dimes, or any other civic organization has something we can participate in. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Upton. Well, I think there's been some real good
original question about holding Saturday meetings with the Central Conference. I represent a lot of women. These women go to work early in the mornings, and they have to get up early to tend to their housework and to get their children ready for school. And I'm sure that the needle industry in this state, the women working in those industries, have to do the same thing. So back to the original question is about the Saturday meetings as far as the central body is concerned. I think that would be the better because none of these industries operate on Saturday, and it does give the women in the labor movement a chance to attend these meetings, which they are hampered now for the lack of time of doing their homework, getting their children ready for school, and having a reasonable bedtime so that they can get up early and do this and get back on their job early in the morning. Job have to work at 7 o'clock. Those don't have to get up around 5, maybe 5 or 4:30, and starting out while they live from their place of work. So I think that to get a better attendance, if you would give that consideration, where you would get a better attendance as far as
Thank you, Brother Beckham. Well, as I said in the outset, we have just been toying around with several different ideas, and of course we wanted to get some of your ideas. Based on what you told us here this afternoon, and as best as it can be arranged, we will try to come up with something that will be acceptable to everybody and that will work out and be in the interest of all the central bodies over the state. I want to thank you for your attention here today, for
you with. We have been working closely with some of the new voters. We've been trying to assist them the best we can. The state, the national COPE people have been working with us. We've held a series of meetings with the Voter Restoration and Education League. We have a meeting planned for tomorrow. It's a follow-up, the league, which time plans will be made for a workshop to be held in each congressional district, at which time we hope to bring some people in and begin the process of voter education. Restoration is not enough. We've got to have an education program. We'll have our first workshop of that kind on February the 11th. And we'd like to ask our central body people, where they can, when these plans are made, that we'd like for you to make an appearance in these areas where these workshops are going on. We have just recently designed a piece of literature that we thought we'd have ready for this conference. We had so many people show up, we'd found out we didn't have enough copies, so we just decided to wait and distribute it later. Our girls have been working on this for the past week. It's a booklet titled Democracy in Mississippi, a Citizen's Guide to State and Local Government. We've got all of the prerequisites to hold office in the state, the requirements to hold office, outlining political parties and how they operate, the dates to be, deadline for qualifying. All of this information is in this booklet. In addition to making it available to these people, we're going to also make it available to all of our local unions. And it will be available in large quantities if you need it. We might have to do another print job, but we will do that. We have also just recently subscribed to the COPE memo. A lot of you might be getting it already, but we decided that we should subscribe to the COPE memo in bulk and mail it to the local union officers on our mailing list. So the locals that are affiliated with this organization will begin to receive the COPE memo in the very near future. We get that twice a month. We'll probably mail it out to you once a month. Some of you are getting the group research report now. We'll probably follow the same process with the COPE memo. We think that this might help you just a little bit to help educate your members politically. Your local union can subscribe to the memo in bulk form. It'll cost you 25 cents a year for each member. It's a pretty cheap deal. You'll get that from us, and then if you like it, then you'll be able to subscribe to it for your members. Now, we have with us here this afternoon two vice presidents of the Voter Restoration Education League who've been working with some of our good friends. Is Wilson Evans left? I see Robert Woodson. Stand up, Robert. Let's make yourself be known here. Robert Woodson over here. And there goes Herbert Williams, the right-hand man of Evans. Naturally, he wouldn't be here when we had to call on him, would he? Well, that's all right. I wanted you to see these fellas because they are carrying the ball and doing everything they can to make sure that the new voters get the proper information and that they vote for candidates that will vote in turn for legislation beneficial to the great masses of the working people in this state. I'm most grateful for the help we've received out of these two gentlemen. We have another young fellow sitting in the back of the hall. Stand up and take a bow. Jesse Epps. Jesse from Clarksdale, former union representative who's working, he's on the payroll of one of the OEO programs in that area, has done much to assist us also in this effort. He's also on the executive board of the league. And I might say that he's done a real job for us in that area in assisting us in organizing the unorganized workers. IBW has a campaign going in that town, as we mentioned this morning, where they've already petitioned after a couple of short weeks for an election, and it was largely the result of Jesse Epps' efforts in the area. Furniture workers also have a situation in a town just outside of Clarksdale that's a result of Jesse Epps' effort. And I understand he's about to get fired off of his job up there because of these efforts, and he might be looking for employment before long. So, Jesse, we'll try to take care of you if that happens. We do appreciate everything you've done up there for us, Jesse. Now, do we have any other announcements to make before we adjourn? Brother Knight?
I'm sorry, I forgot to say this when I was up here. There's one thing I want to say that I forgot and want to make an announcement. During the last several weeks, we've had some inquiries about this business of poll tax payment. I know of one local union member that went to the circuit clerk in his home county to register this man was registering his first time. That circuit clerk told him in addition to registering, he'd have to go pay his poll tax. Well, now all of us in this room know that poll taxes was prerequisite to voting has been outlawed. Brother Ramsey and I have both talked to the Attorney General's office, and they have issued a statement since that time. I don't know if you've seen it in your paper or heard it on your television or radio, but I'm saying this for your good because there may be some more instances like this. You do not have to pay any more poll tax in order to vote in Mississippi in any election. Now, the Attorney General's office has ruled in that order. So, again, as I said, I'm giving this to you for your help. Somebody is going to come to you telling you that some of these local politicians that have been elected by a minority group for the last 30 years, that looks like they may get beat this time if a goodly number of new registrants are able to vote. They're going to continue to try to confuse the people that are not too well informed on this about paying poll tax. So you do not have to pay any poll tax whatsoever. All you have to do is register with the circuit clerk. And if they say anything about it, you tell them that the Attorney General of the state of Mississippi has so ruled. Now, there's one announcement. After we adjourn, I would like to see for just a minute, please, the presidents of all the central bodies that are here. If the president's not here and the secretary, treasurer, or some other officer of the central body is here, I would like to see you for just a minute down at the front here. Thank you.
Do we have any other announcements? It appears that we have accomplished the business at hand. We appreciate again very much the response, the attendance at this meeting. I feel that we're going to have a very successful organizing effort in the state, and I know that you people here, the local union people, will do everything you can to help in that effort. And we at the state council level, of course, will do everything that we can. If any time we can be of any assistance, don't hesitate to call on us. Again, we appreciate your attendance. We're only running behind schedule 15 minutes. We're going to let you go now. Godspeed. God bless all of you.